Welcome back to the podcast called Tell the World, and I'm your host. Happy Hump Day, happy Hump Day. How's everybody doing? Back to school, back to college has returned, everybody. I see all the young kids going back to school, getting on the bus safely, and college games have came back. So college is back too. Today's short discussion would be uh, keeping, the faith of yourself as well as understanding, your motivation, even when things don't seem like things are moving and it just seems like things are in your way, holding you back. Sometimes you feel like things are crashing and falling apart and you just feel like nothing's happening, right? Well, that's just, the young part of you that's still growing and you're trying to figure it out. Life often feels chaotic because we complicate it, right? Sometimes we be stripping down the essentials of ourselves. We have to do that. Our goals, our values, the truths can be very, but the truth is just clarity. That's all it is, just clarity. And you have to get to them parts in your life to understand that. So this is why we have the image of Einstein with us. So we simplify things. It may not be all the way physics, but sometimes physics and principles, applying things, breaking down things in our lives to get to a formula in our lives that fit. Sometimes things may not go right. And sometimes we think that, it's just over. Nothing's gonna change. Albert Einstein wasn't just a genius in physics. He was a genius in how to live. Sometimes I was reading some things on Einstein, and once he said imagination is more important than knowledge. Think about that. Knowledge tells us what's already existing. Everything sometimes how we think of things is all in our imagination. That what creates our future. Even if it doesn't go right, it's just how you're thinking about it. Applying good thoughts, applying the action, applying the work behind what you are trying to bring alive or what you want around your life and how you want your life to be. These are things that you must keep working hard to get. And that's just the physics, right? Struggling, what? Trying to map it out, trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden you start to get it, right? That's how things work in life, right? In our daily lives, we get stuck repeating, the same routines, and, we're chasing the answer and we're stressing over details. But, I read something on Einstein reminds us to be curious and ask questions and look at life with wonder, right? So don't look at life in chaos. Look for the answers. Ask yourself the questions that you need to get there. Go find what the answer is. This is all research, and this is all what you're applying into the theory of you, the theory of what your life is about. It's not the Big Bang, right? But it is like sometimes like a crash out when you just feel like you want to give up, right? Well, here right now, we're just talking about thinking a lot smarter, but just thinking simpler. You know, thinking smarter doesn't mean nothing like you're dumb, but keeping everything out of you're trying to think that's gonna make you not feel like things are not you're not making smart decisions, right? So, simplicity. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. That's not just about science. It's about life and overcomplicating things. It's like how we think about things and we just overthink it, and we just always seem to think the worst, right? Our minds go there with overthinking. when we're not thinking, in clarity. So clarity often found in, focusing on what really matters. That's our purpose. That's our values. That's our vision. So you have to, when something doesn't go right, as humans, sometimes we do think the worst. We think the worst, y'all. We don't. We always think the worst possibilities first, right? And it's like, wow, wait, you went to the worst part of it. It may not go right. It's your theory of how you're thinking. So you put that out there. That's how it's going to turn out, right? Right? So, what are the things that you're applying in there where you see it working, where the things that are working because you're applying the simplifying of thinking, meaning that you're going to school, right? You're listening, right? You're asking questions, right? You come home, right? You're studying. And sometimes if you need a tutor, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I'm applying the school into real life because once you start to get to a certain age, you are dealing with real life. And the world is not what it seems, it's what you're seeing around you, but that's not your creation. That's coming from a lot of other minds and stuff. Traffic lights, somebody who created that, the streets and stuff, the yellow dots in the road to help us all drive safe, right? So that's a simpler way of understanding driving. You see the street signs, you see, the glow at nighttime, the yellow strip, the white strip, that reflector, right, to help us safely see where we're going, right, on the road, right? So what we're going to do is today we're going to take a page from, an Einstein book, okay? Be curious, right? Right? Always be curious and don't just be curious. Go seek the knowledge. Go look for answers. Bring your questions. Then get those answers. Use your imagination. Yeah, sometimes we do think the worst in our own imagination, but you got to use your imagination to go further, go deeper within yourself. Don't just go for the worst of an imagination because that's human like, right? But you're more super than you know it. So you want to simplify your approach to things, okay? And never stop balancing hard work with a sense of wondering because you gotta balance the hard work that you put in, and, and it is a sense of wondering, am I doing all the right things, right? So that's your checklist. You did this, you did that, right? And you didn't give up. So even if you did all those things and it still didn't work, that doesn't mean that it's not going to work. It's always a moment. It's always a time when things make sense. It's always a direction. It's always something that changes things. Sometimes it's a twist and turn sometime in life to make things better, right? Some people are geniuses when it comes to thinking. But because geniuses isn't about, equations all the time in physics, it's about perspective, right? This is Einstein about, what sometimes humans don't think, the perspective. And when you change how you see the world, you change what's possible in your life, okay? But this is growth. This is just development still, right? They say that the brain doesn't develop until you're fully 25. But do it still means that you understand things? Sometimes no, because you're still learning as you go. You're learning things that you are applying yourself into, and you have to make sure that it applies to your life. What you put in, what you put out, what belongs, what don't belong, right? I remember reading some short wisdom notes that Einstein would use because when people hear about him, they think he's smarter than us, so that can be more intimidating to some. But he was not never about him being smarter than you. He just said that sometimes we think a little bit small and short without giving ourselves a chance, like not using our imagination. There was something he said. He said once, he said something like, imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagine that. Imagination. right? You remember when you was a kid, you used to imaginary, you would use your imagination, but you'd be there imagining things, and it could have been anything, inventions, creating things, things like that. Um, uh, that's that's what creates your future. When you use your privately thoughts as in setting goals, knowing that this is a dream that you want, and that applies your motivation right there. Sometimes it does start with just your imagination, right? It's not always the open book. Sometimes it's the imagination. It's not the knowledge. You know, uh, and like I said, Einstein always believed in keeping life simple. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Okay? So you don't want to overdo it. You want to keep it base where it's safe for your mind. And that's for your growth. And it actually is for your understanding. And once you start to get that rolling, meaning thinking, not too hard on yourself, but simple steps to get there, then you see the things, the results, which kicks in your motivation because you're learning you. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes we're trying to learn ourselves within the replacement of others, meaning that you are trying to use their selves into you and you're not them. You are in that shell of yourself learning you. You're learning how you make mistakes. You're learning what makes you laugh. You're learning what makes you happy. You are learning your doubts. You're learning everything about you, and it's up to you to settle yourself down and break through to yourself, right? Gather your senses, right? Don't let your senses be all scattered. You don't want yourself all scattered all over the place. You don't want to overthink things, right? You don't want to overthink things. So you want to simplify things, simplify those things. Always stay curious. Always look for those answers. Always those questions, go get the answer. Use your imagination. Use your own theory. Use your own theory and use your own way of simply thinking and apply it to your life. And focus on what really matters, okay? Because the other stuff that comes in will just keep you off with yourself, and you will always think that things are not working and going right in your life. It's not that. And sometimes things are just not out of your control, right? It's just not up under your control. A lot of things is just not up under our control. And sometimes we think we are in control, but sometimes when things do go wrong, sometimes it's not your control. It's out of your hand. So that's how you have to look at life. And sometimes we can pile stress onto our lives. When clarity hides in a simple city of yourself, sometimes we just pile the stress on, right? We just pile it on. Just listen to yourself, okay? Be curious about you, like what makes you tick. Question everything. Let your mind wander. Let your heart wander. Don't just live inside what is dare to see what could be of yourself. Nobody, because a genius isn't equation or a chalkboard. Genius is perspective, and it's the courage to see in the world, definitely, and the wisdom to keep you wondering, and it keeps you alive because curiosity is there. Let's not do the curiosity kills the cat, but be curious about things that you seek in life that you want to apply to your life to make your life better, right? They say forbidden knowledge. Come on. Think of yourself like this. You're in that shell. You're here on earth, you're new. You are trying to use that mind the right way where it works for you. You are programming yourself to be, right? You're programming yourself to be. Remember, Be wise. Don't stress. It's gonna be there sometimes, but that's those moments of learning yourself. But you got to be able to maintain yourself. Change your vision on how you're thinking, and you have to change what's possible, right? So you have to do those things for yourself. You have to apply those things. So I hope that helps someone out there today. Just remember, motivation comes when you see something that sparks you, that inspires you. Always keep your faith. Faith is what you believe in. Faith is what you see. I hope that helps someone stay motivated. Keep your faith. And that concludes Tell the World podcast. You heard it first.